They told me the tunnels were dead, drowned, cauterized from the earth after the cataclysm swept the marrow line. I shouldn't have felt the pulse under my boots, shouldn't have seen those faint oscillations in the water's surface, like breath. Trapped beneath glass, but I did. My name, not important, not yet. What matters is what I saw the night I broke curfew in Cinderim and wandered below Sector 8, where pipes groaned like old gods and oxygen thinned into whispers. I wasn't looking for anything. That's the truth. But some truths are too fragile. To hold in open palms, you cradle them like wounded birds or broken knives. Beneath layers of collapsed concrete, water shimmered like starlight turned molten. It didn't belong there. This section had been sealed after the river had reversed. Everyone said it was uninhabitable. Everyone lied. I climbed down the broken flood shaft, scraping my palms on jagged steel. No power, no airlocks, just the wet breath of a forgotten vein of the city. My boots hit puddles that sounded hollow. That was the first thing wrong. Water isn't supposed to echo like bone chambers. I lifted my lantern. Light sliced the dark, and then I saw it. Not a shape, not at first, a shimmer. Something moved, then froze, watching. I should have run. Instead, I whispered, "Hello?" The shimmer grew. It unfolded like smoke uncoiling through light. And the eyes, not human, not even remotely, metallic and amber, slit-pupilled, yet glowing like molten circuitry. It stepped forward. I stepped back. At first I thought it was a machine. Its frame glinted like engineered armor, scales fused. With technology I'd never seen. Then it blinked, and the movement was far too organic. Its limbs ended in talons that shimmered translucent at the edges. Its wings, yes, it had wings, were too wide for the corridor, folded like shrouds across its back. A dragon, but not one from Earth's old tales. This was something else, something not of here. I didn't speak, but it did, not with words, with memory. Suddenly I was somewhere else, a sky not made of stars, but fractured hexagonal light, worlds burning. A scream caught in my throat, but it wasn't mine. A fleet falling, cities drowned in antimatter tides, a final order given in a tongue that shattered sound, and then silence. As if the memory knew it had shown me too much, I stumbled back. "What are you?" It looked at me, head tilting like it was studying a long-lost script. I didn't understand then. Not yet. Then its claws curled, and from under the shallow waters of the tunnel it pulled a small device. Black, angular, with a fractal shimmer to its surface. I reached for it. It didn't stop me. My fingers brushed it, and my lungs convulsed. Images tore through me. A girl with frost scars under her eyes, holding this same device to her chest, a pact sworn in a tongue no human had spoken, a dragon's roar, not of rage, but of despair. Then it was gone. The vision, the dragon, the device. All that remained was the tunnel, the water, and the slow throb beneath the surface, like something waiting. I didn't sleep that night. I recorded the tunnel coordinates and replayed every detail on my neural scroll. I drew the creature's face from memory, but it kept changing. My strokes grew wilder until the parchment blurred. In the morning, I submitted a false errand to Maintenance Command and rerouted my city pass to mask the detour. No one noticed, not in Cinderim, not where silence buys freedom. I returned the next day with a breather suit, thermal rig, and a carbon pulse dagger. I wasn't stupid. The tunnel was colder, wetter, alive. The shimmer returned, but this time it didn't hide. It spoke. Designate, keeper, confirmed. I nearly screamed. It wasn't vocal. The words echoed in my skull like ice cracking. "I'm not a keeper," I said aloud, unsure if it would understand. "You carry the seed," it replied. "The device responds. You are chosen." Chosen. For what? It blinked, then it moved, its wings unfurled. My breath caught. They weren't wings, they were solar sails, latticed membrane etched with unknown runes, glowing dimly. It turned and stepped into the water, beckoning. I followed. The tunnel sloped downward beyond the schematics I'd studied. At the bottom, a dome, submerged. Faint light pulsed from within. Not electricity, not bioluminescence. Something older. The dragon stopped. "This is the seal," it said. "I am the warden." I stared through the translucent barrier of the dome inside. People, frozen in stasis, dozens, maybe hundreds, suspended in columns of light. Human. I staggered. What is this?" "Refugees," it said, "from the 10th sky." What sky?" They ran from the fall, crashed, buried beneath. This tunnel, once airlock, flooded after breach. Seal maintained integrity. My head spun. "They're aliens?" It hesitated. "Not wholly." I pressed my palm to the dome. One of them, a girl, floated nearest the surface. Her eyes fluttered open. My heart stopped. She looked like me. No, not just like me, she was me, but older, scarred. Her lips moved, but no sound came. I screamed. The dome dissolved. Water flooded over me, but I didn't drown. I floated. Like her, like them. The dragon's voice filled my mind. "Time fractures near the seal. You have seen what will be, if you choose." I couldn't breathe. I saw myself, fighting, bleeding, leading a rebellion of fire-blooded people with wings etched from tech. I saw betrayal, a hand I trusted stabbing me through the heart. I saw love and loss. I surfaced, gasping, "Why me?" "Because the others forgot," it said. "You remembered." Remembered what? The dragon bowed its head. The pact, the seed, the war. I touched the device again. It pulsed, and I cried, because I finally understood what it meant. They say you don't remember dreams when you wake, but I remembered everything. I remembered her eyes, mine, but older, heavier. I remembered the dragon's voice echoing through every cell in my body. I remembered drowning in the future, only to surface in the present, gasping like a newborn tasting gravity. I didn't leave the tunnel for days. The dragon, whose name was unpronounceable but sounded like a chord strummed on a dying sun, told me I could call it Vortuin. Not a name, it said, but a concept, guardian of ends that refuse to end. I called it Vor. It told me stories, not with voice, not with mouth, with memory. The seed, that device I'd touched, wasn't just a relic. It was a key, a trigger. A whisper in metal that could unlock blood, time, and catastrophe, and somehow it had chosen me. "Because your blood is not entirely of this world," Vor said. "You are hybrid, forgotten line, hidden gene. You are both heir and herald." "Herald? Of what?" I asked. Vor's wings trembled, and for the first time I thought I heard sadness of the war that never ended. He showed me more, this time not as dreams, but as standing memories. The seal held thousands of stasis shells, not just hundreds. Some were alien, others were altered humans, their DNA rewritten mid-evolution by a process called synth-folding. They had come through a rift, a slip channel from a collapsed system during the Great Drift, a time not recorded in our history because it hadn't happened here. Not yet. My world was a cradle, theirs was a cinder, and the seed was our bridge. I learned their language, not with tongue, but thought. Each glyph in their mind pattern was built from emotion, intent, and geometry. When I spoke with Vor now, I didn't hear words. I felt purpose. It rewired how I understood everything. I asked Vor, "Why stay? You're powerful. You could leave this planet." Vor's form dimmed, as if the light in his core flickered with ancient fatigue. My oath was to protect the sleepers, until a bearer of the seed awakened the seal. And now I've done that. He tilted his head, yes. And now the war may find us. It didn't take long. The first sign was the ripple, above ground. The river reversed again, this time unnaturally. The flow stilled, turned glassy. Birds vanished, gravity stuttered. Communications blacked out for 7 seconds across 4 districts. Then came the sentience fracture. People started breaking, not bodies, minds. One engineer on the surface turned all her blood into solid iron. A child screamed a frequency that melted fiber towers. Somewhere in the Eastern Arc, a woman walked into a cathedral and began floating. She's still up there, humming. Vor called it echo contamination, the result of proximity to something he named Ural imprints, remnants of a race that built memory as weapons. They know the seed activated, he said. They will come. Who's they? He paused, then showed me. Not ships, not fleets, not monsters in armor. Ideas, embodied, given form by belief. They were the excravens, thought entities that traveled on frequencies, not fuel. Carried by broken dreams, accessed through memory gates. Seeded into neural pathways like viral hymns. They didn't arrive in craft, they arrived in people. I saw one infect a soldier. He tore out his own voice box and began writing glowing equations on air. The equations pulsed. The air broke like glass. Reality unraveled around him like fabric catching fire. Once they breach the real, the tide rises, Vor said. We're not ready, I whispered. That is why you must awaken them, Vor replied. I stood before the seal again, the dome that held the suspended sleepers, my twin among them. Vor guided me to a pedestal near the base. The seed fit perfectly into a socket I hadn't seen before. The moment it clicked, the water vanished, inverted upwards, like film rewinding. The stasis pods opened one by one. People fell and breathed and remembered, their eyes glowing faintly with the same amber slit as Vor's. My name is Drazyne, said the first one who stood. Her hair shimmered with metal threads, and she bowed to me. I am Commander Arkis, said the next. Taller, with ash-white skin and hexagonal tattoos that shifted with light. One by one they rose and knelt. I don't understand, I said. Arkis stood. You carry her face. Whose? He turned to the suspended pod where my double still floated, eyes closed, breath shallow. Your future self, Vor said. She died preserving the past. I felt the ground tilt. Am I her? Or is she me? Both, Vor said. If you survive what she could not. We moved fast. They had only hours before the excravens found the seal. The city above was unraveling. One district flickered between dimensions. Another crumbled into sand shaped like bones. We took the old paths, through forgotten tunnels, beneath the floodgates that never opened, through pipes that pulsed with light. Everywhere we walked, the air shimmered, like time held its breath. The people followed me. They didn't ask why, but I kept asking myself, what am I becoming? That night, we reached the first gate. It was hidden beneath a hydro reactor, long thought decommissioned. The gate was not a doorway. It was a question, literally. To open it, you had to answer. I placed my hand on the glyph stone. A voice echoed through me. What is the price of remembering? I saw 1,000 versions of me, dying in different ways. Alone, stabbed, burned, betrayed, loved, erased. I whispered everything. The gate opened, and beyond it we saw the weapon, not a cannon, not a bomb, a living thing. It looked like a child, pale, sleeping, and around her, vines of crystal circuitry. She is the Ark, Vor said. The last hybrid memory born. I stepped closer. She opened her eyes and said my name, not the one I used on Earth, but the one I had before. A name I'd never spoken. The sound of it made me drop to my knees and weep, because I remembered. I remembered everything. The child's eyes held galaxies, not in a poetic way, literally. Her irises rotated like ancient spiral arms of stars collapsing into light. And when she spoke my name, the name I hadn't remembered until she exhaled it. The air changed. It wasn't just sound, it was recognition. The others knelt. Even Vor lowered his massive frame, wings folding in reverence. And I stood there, dizzy with a truth too vast to hold. I had lived only one life, but somehow I remembered 1,000. And in each one I found her, the girl, the Ark. Her voice was soft, more vibration than speech. "You came late in this stream," she said. "What stream?" I whispered. She reached forward and touched my forehead. Everything shattered. I was standing on a planet with no sky, only rings of molten language rotating above. I stood barefoot in ash, surrounded by obsidian towers. Above me, a mirror. Beneath me, the same. Time was folded here. I watched myself die in one reflection. In another, I led an army with wings of fire. In another, I was neither human nor alien, but something merged. Then I saw him. His name burned across my skin like memory, seared by betrayal. Cairn, not human, not entirely alien, not ex-Craven, something between I loved him and he killed me. I snapped back to my body. The child, the Ark, held my hands, her fingers cold as metal stars. "I am her memory," she said, "born from your grief, carved from your unfinished promise." I stepped away, breath ragged. "I don't understand." Vor approached. "She is not a weapon. She is your echo, made by your future self as a failsafe." "To do what?" I asked. "To remember what you forget when you die," Vor replied. The others, the sleepers, stood in formation now. Some had armor made of folded starlight, others wielded instruments that hummed when close to the Ark. "Commander," Archie spoke, "we must move, the ex-Cravens bleed through." As if summoned, the floor beneath us pulsed, then screamed. Reality split. Cracks appeared in the air, not the walls, the air. Through them poured shadows that didn't obey geometry. Creatures made of broken silhouettes and musical notes. Turned toxic, they didn't walk, they glitched. The first one turned to face me. Its face was a collage of mine. Dozens of versions of me, smiling, crying, screaming, fused into a nightmare of overlapping identity. Vor leapt between us. His roar bent the walls. But the thing didn't flinch. Instead, it spoke in Cairn's voice. "Hello again, love." I froze. Vor attacked. His claws moved like gravity knives, wings unfurled in solar arcs. But when he struck the ex-Craven, his body flickered. The creature absorbed his motion, mirrored it, and hurled it back. Vor screamed. Part of him disintegrated mid-air. The Ark cried out. Time fractured. I don't know how I moved, but suddenly I was between them. The seed burned in my palm, and I let it burn. I didn't suppress it. I invited it in. Light exploded. Not white, not golden. A light made of names, of moments. Every time I'd laughed with Cairn, every time I'd kissed him, every time he betrayed me in another stream, and then, the one time I killed him. I remembered the blade. The sound of his voice saying, "I forgive you," and the last moment, his lips on mine as he dissolved, whispering, "Start again." The ex-Craven flickered. It screamed, not in pain but in rejection. The seed's memory light was poison. To it I surged forward. The device pulsed. Not a weapon, a story. I told it out loud. I spoke the full truth of who I was. The girl who had forgotten her name, found a dragon in the drowned dark, awakened herself through loss, and chose to feel. It all. I finished the story by saying, "I forgive you too." And the ex-Craven crumbled like a corrupted file. Vor collapsed beside me, his form smoking. "You rewrote the loop," he rasped. "I remembered love," I said. He smiled. A strange thing for a dragon made of stellar alloy. We fled the chamber. The cracks widened, more ex-Cravens breached, but the seed kept glowing. It sang now, a wordless hymn built of sorrow, bravery, and choices not yet made. The Ark walked beside me. Her hair now shimmered like obsidian data streams. "She's growing," Archie said. "She feeds on your resolve." "Is that dangerous?" I asked. He hesitated. "Yes," said Vor, "but it's necessary. Our goal was the Ether Bastion, an orbital elevator buried beneath the ruins of an arcology. If we could activate it, we could send the Ark off-world to find others like her, to finish what I had once started before I forgot. But the Bastion was guarded by him, Cairn, or what was left of him. We arrived as the twin moons aligned. He stood at the threshold, still beautiful, still impossible. His skin glowed like pearl fractured with lightning, but his eyes, they were full of grief. "I asked them to make me forget you," he said. His voice was the same. "Even after all this time." "They didn't," I said. He smiled sadly. "No, they made me kill you instead." The Ark stepped forward. "Do you remember her?" she asked. Cairn knelt before the child. "I remember too much." Then he looked up. "At me, will you kill me again?" I felt the blade at my side, felt every stream collapse into this moment. I stepped forward, raised the weapon, and I kissed him. The blade dissolved between us, so did the seed, so did he, not dead. Freed, the bastion lit up. The Ark walked into the beam. She turned to me. "This time you did not abandon me," I cried again, not from pain, from wholeness. Vor touched my shoulder. "You are ready." "For what?" I asked. "To live beyond the end." We launched the Ark into orbit with nothing but hope and ancient data woven through her crystalline veins. She disappeared into the sky like a tear, traced in reverse, rising instead of falling. She didn't wave. She didn't need to. She was me, the part of me that never learned how to forget. The bastion crumbled behind us, its spires folding into the clouds like worn pages of a burned book. Cairn was gone, scattered into the seed's final pulse, neither dead nor alive, but unwritten. I carried him in the same place I carried regret, behind my ribs, where the past becomes myth. Vor, and I walked not toward a destination, but away from memory. The ex-Cravens were retreating, no longer hunting, but hiding. Our world had become too unpredictable, too unstable. The seed's resonance had corrupted the psychic map they followed. They feared me now. "They'll return," I told Vor, as we passed a graveyard of broken skyships. "Yes," he said, "but next time you will remember before it is too late." We reached the ridge of silence, where no machines functioned, and time grew thick as molasses. There, hidden beneath dead wind turbines and collapsing satellites, we found the last chamber. Not a vault, not a weapons cache, a library, except it didn't hold books, it held lives. Thousands of hibernation pods arranged in a spiral of light and shadow. Each contained a person who had never existed in this timeline. Versions of people lost to overwritten choices, fractured streams, or forbidden memories. "I buried them," I whispered. "You love them," Vor corrected. "So much, you refused to let them fade." I walked among them, saw faces I knew from dreams, friends I'd mourned without names, lovers I'd left in timelines I couldn't remember choosing. One pod held a woman with copper scars shaped like song notes across her cheeks. Another held a child with eyes that blinked in hex code. One was empty. I stared at it for a long time. Vor said nothing, because we both knew. That pod had once held me, the version who never touched the seed, the version who stayed human, who fell in love and died ordinary, the version I had to let go, so that I could become. We lit a pyre that night, a symbolic one. Not fire, but memory. Vor sang. His voice made the sky ripple, not with volume but meaning. Every word he spoke was an apology to the dead and a promise to the future. I added my own verse, clumsy, human, but real. Then, as stars broke over us like ink spilled across glass, I said what I'd been afraid to say aloud since all this began. I don't want to be a symbol. Vor's glow dimmed gently. You are not. I don't want to lead, I added. He looked up. Then walk beside. And so we did. Weeks passed. Maybe months. We rebuilt nothing. Not at first. The world was still wrong. Echoes of excraven breaches whispered through metal. Water tasted like grief, and even time sometimes hiccuped and showed us flickers of possible futures. But the sleepers I'd awakened, Archie's, Drazine, and the others began teaching again. They taught physics with no constants, history with variable truths, math that bled into poetry, and I listened. For once I just listened. One day the sky cracked again, but this time no monsters came. Instead, a single seed, not mine, not the one I'd carried, floated down like a dandelion made of crystal. Landed in my palm, cold, buzzing with a message, not in words, but an image, the Ark. Alive, awake, and not alone. She had found others, worlds like ours, dreaming, breaking, healing. She sent coordinates. She sent a melody. She sent home. We debated. Leaving, some wanted to stay, to keep Earth safe, to rebuild, but some, like me, felt the tug of stars that remembered our names. Vor made his choice. I will remain, he said. My oath has not expired. I cried when I hugged him, really hugged him, not because he was leaving, but because I had become who he believed I could be. He smiled. Do not look for me in the sky, he said. Look beneath your skin. I left myself there. I boarded the vessel the next sunrise, a ship grown, not built, made from the bones of extinct. Solar beasts and dreams stitched into hull plating. Drazine kissed my forehead. Archie's gave me a blade shaped like silence. The others, the old and the new, saluted in unison, not to a commander, to a witness. We launched with no countdown, no speeches, just a hum. Ancient, sacred, inevitable. As we breached the atmosphere, I looked back one last time. The earth glowed, not perfect, but alive, the way grief feels after you finally forgive yourself. And then we were gone, through the dark between stars, toward the Ark, toward the others, toward a future written not in fear or betrayal, but continuance. My name is not important, not anymore, because I've had many, and in some timelines, I died young. In others I lived old. In one, I never touched the dragon scale. In another, I was the dragon, but in this one, I remembered who I was. And when I cried, when I found that tunnel and touched the seed and saw what I had forgotten, I wasn't just mourning. I was rebirthing, not just myself, but everyone I used to be. Because sometimes the flood doesn't mean the end. Sometimes it means you finally learned how to swim.